Hey Total Gym trainers, it's JD here. Let's talk about mindfulness in training. I'm going to do kind of a series on this. But what's the benefit for you and your client of training with mindfulness? For one, your client is going to be more engaged and they're going to get more out of their workout because they're going to be in the present moment. Also, your time will fly more by you because you're always going to be present with the client, always cueing them. One of the best things I did for my personal training was get trained in Pilates, because if you go to a Pilates class or a yoga class, which I highly recommend, the Pilates teacher or a good yoga teacher is going to be talking almost the whole hour. So what does that do if you're talking to your client, constantly cueing them things on posture, on abdominal contractions? It keeps them in the present moment, so they're fully engaged in the workout. Now, what is the huge benefit of that? If they're fully present to what you're saying and what their body's doing and the exercise itself, guess what they're not thinking about? Life outside of that hour that they have with you. So it's like it's an hour of meditation time for them where they're truly, truly, truly focused. I'll give you a great example. My Pilates client yesterday, she had a huge leak in her roof, and she came in and she was all in disaster, and I said, hey Betty, today, for the next hour, we're going to focus on your body and your workout. And I started giving her cues, and I double cued that day, so she was constantly thinking. And by the end of the hour, she was in a great mood, and she got a great workout. Okay, let's start with an exercise as simple as the crunch. Now, I'm going to play the personal trainer. That's what's going to be coming out of my mouth. And I'm going to pretend I'm also the client. So just kind of separate those two. All right, and just check out how I would cue a client through a crunch. So, first of all, let them know that because we are awesome and we have a Total Gym GTS, that we are using gravity as a resistance. So because we're on a decline, we're going to add more tension to our abdominals, more gravity to our body weight. So the bonus is we don't have to do as many. Now when we add mindfulness, we really don't have to do many. So I'm going to say, okay, I want you to take your head in your hands and press back in so your head is listless and just floating in your hands like a pillow. Now, before we start anything, I'm going to ask them to close their eyes. That's a huge thing. Close your eyes really makes them go inside and get really focused. Close your eyes, and then I want you to contract your six-pack muscle. Notice I didn't say move from A to B. Contract your six-pack muscle. Client, you know where those are. I'll pretend I'm training Betty. So Betty, contract your six-pack muscles so your shoulder blades are off the mat. Now that is your starting point and your end point. So I want you to keep constant tension on the muscle you're working. Why? Because with that quality, we won't have to do as many to get the same results, to get to that fatigue. Now from there, with eyes closed, pretend they're closed, I'm going to say, now, when you crunch, you're going to contract those six-pack muscles more. Those muscles are going to move you. So let's start with eyes closed. I might have her put her hands right there for some tactile feedback, or I might use my hands. Now, Betty, those six-pack muscles are moving you, but there's two other muscle groups I want you to contract. Your abdominal wall, your transverse abdominus. So as every time you exhale, the belly button draws the spine, and the pelvic floor lifts. So for my Pilates training, I'm always training transverse abdominus and the pilococcygenius, or just lifting your pelvic floor, or what we call hold your pee-pee muscle. So I'm already getting fatigued, and then I'll remind Betty that your abdominals are very, very short muscles. So if you're moving a lot, chances are you're using a lot of momentum and other muscles that we don't want to use, like the hip flexors. So what I tell Betty is, you know, to get the burn, to get to fatigue, I used to have to do 100 and 150 crunches mindlessly with momentum and cranking on my neck using hip flexors. Now, with a perfect crunch mindfully, I only have to do about 10 or 12, and I get that same fatigue and even better results. Next exercise I'll demonstrate mindfully is just a simple low row. Now, real easy to get your client on there and say, okay, let's pull the handles from A to B, squeeze your shoulder blades together. Yeah, that's fine, they're going to be moving, but let's now do a little bit of mindfulness. So Betty is still my client. I'm going to say I want you to sit up nice and tall and really focus on your posture first. Now we're going to be focusing on the muscles, squeezing your shoulder blades together, but we're also going to be focusing on the low back. All right? So Betty, what I want you to do is really lean forward with your sternum reaching for the top of the tower. And in the first stretch, I want you to flex your quadriceps, all right? So you get a nice stretch right behind the kneecap where your calf connects to your hamstring. Okay, then drop the head, go into a nice full stretch. Now the first movement is going to be lower back. So you're going to inhale, puff the chest up into more of a neutral spine. As you start to exhale, you're going to contract your lower back muscles to bring yourself back to that neutral spine perpendicular to the glide board. And then the arms come in and you squeeze the shoulder blades together, focusing on those muscles in your upper back. And then we go back into the stretch. Now, Betty, on the next one, every other one, I want you to bend your knees as you go forward. So now the stretch goes more into your lower back and the middle and upper hamstrings. All right? Doesn't really have much to do with the exercise, but again, I'm giving her mindful cues to keep her in the present moment and always thinking. All right, Betty, now the knees are soft. You're getting a nice stretch. Once again, inhale, puff up the chest, feel your lower back, bring that perpendicular, and then squeeze the shoulder blades together. Come forward. This time, the legs are going to be active. You're going to get that nice stretch in the calves and hamstrings. And then eventually what I'll have her do is, okay, now we got it all together. Now let's flow with it. And instead of making it robotic, make it more of a smooth movement. Okay, so now we're coming up. Knees are soft, more of a back stretch. Now, Betty, you got the mechanics going now. Now, how is your core contraction? Every time you exhale, as your body goes up against gravity, you're doing those two things, drawing your navel to spine and lifting your pelvic floor. All right, so those are two examples, and so you can really keep your clients present. You know, think about the last time you were really present. Sometime when you're doing a hobby of yours, you know how time flies and you're really engaged and nothing else matters. That is what keeping your clients in the present will do, and it'll also help your time fly by because you're going to be more present as well. Until next time, take care and keep the comments coming.